He just made it into a crusade, and he got into his mind what he wanted to do, and then he baited the lawyer guy from Daily Wire into a call.
I'm more conspiratorial about this. I will
really?
be conspiratorial, yeah. I think that Crowder...
I think the craziest thing to me listening to Rekeita was the fact that he was saying that these terms were unreasonable when the terms are always reasonable, assuming that there's enough money. Because
that was the thing that I was screaming about. Yeah, because a contract is fee and terms, and they're balanced, right? You're gonna give me some amount of money for some number of deliverables, for some service I've got to perform for you. It's never a problem with the fee, and it's never a problem with the terms. It's the combination of these two things. Yeah. Damn, imagine if Crowder picked up Fuentes.
I still think he would have been able to.
No shot. Do you really think so, though?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, let's say you leave. Let's say
so,
I've got you under
contract.
Come on
your show all the time.
Okay, hold on. Just as a heads up, every single thing you see coming out right now, there is only one correct take. Okay, and that is that Crowder is drumming up support for his new media platform. That's it. Anybody that thinks that the Daily Wire is in the wrong here is just political partisan hackery, siding with Crowder over the Daily Wire because they want to get on his good side to be on his new media shit, or maybe some other reason, or because they hate the Daily Wire. But I haven't seen yet. Now maybe Crowder could release something different, but he won't because he would have already. That would change my mind. But nothing that Crowder has released so far shows any wrongdoing whatsoever. Not even remotely close on the Daily Wire's part. And even the clip-chimped call that he has with the Daily Wire person didn't show anything wrong. And he thought it was like a huge win. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's stupid. Candace Owens said the same thing? Oh. Did we listen to the call? Yeah, we listened to all of it. But again, I think the thing is, I think Crowder's going to come out looking good just because of how he's tried to high road the whole thing, and because people don't know how any of the contracts work in entertainment. But yeah, it's so obviously Crowder is a fucking, he's not, I shouldn't even say he's an idiot because I think he knows what he's doing. But oh shit, maybe Benny Boy has a timeline here. It's nasty to attack my company and Daily Wire Plus host as Big Con by lying about the meaning of a non-binding term sheet. It's despicable to plan weeks in advance to attack my best friend and your friend by setting up and secretly taping a phone call, all to grow your email list. Here's the timeline prior to October 5th. Steven's agent requests we send an offer. October 5th, we submit a non-binding term sheet. November 2nd, Steven tells Jeremy he wants $30 million per year and us to send him a new offer, refusing to redline the term sheet. Redlining the term sheet. I'm guessing this means crossing off provisions that he's not okay with. Does somebody know that terminology? Hold on, I haven't heard that before. Yeah, okay. My guess is redlining the sheet is going to be these are your proposed changes basically to what's being sent. November 14th, we told Steven we couldn't do that. December 12th, Steven apparently registered stopbigcon.com knowing he's leaving the Blaze and that we weren't providing him with an offer to his liking. Steven needed a plan. Attacking us was the plan. December 15th, Steven announces he's leaving the Blaze. January 7th, Steven texts Jeremy in a friendly fashion to ask if they can talk. January 9th, Steven calls Jeremy and secretly tapes him. That means 96 days elapsed between when he received the term sheet and when he secretly taped Jeremy. And it means that 36 days elapsed between when he decided to attack the Daily Wire and Jeremy by purchasing Stop Big Con and he called Jeremy to tape him. Once more, if you actually care about the supposedly horrific, non-binding first offer term sheet offering $50 million over 4 years, Jeremy reads it line by line here. It's quite simple. If your show loses money, you lose money. This is how capitalism works. You know who knows this? Steven Crowder. That's why he has a piss off YouTube segment in which he deliberately does not say things that will get him kicked off YouTube and directs people behind his paywall. He must be a shill for YouTube or something. Damn. True. Benny boy.
How do you feel about, Rekeita on that Crowder contract?
Rekeita is just on some insane levels of fucking Crowder dick riding. I don't know why, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, it's just the same team politics that have been going on through conservatives since probably 2016 of the traditional conservatives versus the populists.
Yeah, but I don't think that this contract was like that. I think Crowder made it like that because he's trying to...
Yeah, and now Rekeita's taking his side because it fits with whatever team division he wants inside of the Republicans.
Because he's probably the more anti-establishment. I think he's a self-avowed hardcore libertarian, isn't he?
I don't know that much about him. I've only seen him basically on your stream and like maybe a few hours of the Johnny Depp trial. But yeah, I would agree with that assessment of him.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so I just think it's like insane. It seems like, at least from my perspective, that Crowder basically he had a contract negotiation. It didn't seem like he had as much power as he thought in it. Especially, if he's employing 20 people for 4 years. Let's say he's paying them on average $100,000 a year. I don't know what that is, but that's 2.4 million a year. That's 10 million. So he's going to take home 40 mil for himself. It seems like that's like probably not even close to what he expects him to be worth. And so instead of arguing over the exact negotiation points of like how much getting demonetized these places were, he just made it into a crusade, and he got into his mind what he wanted to do, and then he baited the lawyer guy from Daily Wire into a call.
I'm more conspiratorial about this. I
Oh,
will be
really?
conspiratorial. Yeah, I think that Crowder was never ever joining the Daily Wire unless they were going to give him an ungodly offer.
Wait, I thought he was under contract with them.
No, he was under contract with the Blaze.
The Blaze.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he was ever joining the Daily Wire. I think he knows he's got a huge audience, and he does all of his production and everything himself. He in-houses almost all of his shit, right? So if he's in-housed everything, his production model he's like ready to go. He's about to leave contract with the Blaze, meaning he can get his own fans to subscribe to his shit. What better way to start your own media company than to be leaving one and then to shit all over the other, and then to frame it as an establishment versus anti-establishment thing? I think he planned this from the start. He did, because he registered that domain. He got the call to set up the Daily Wire afterwards. All of his arguments are unbelievably stupid. If he wanted to go for a bigger deal with the Daily Wire, he could have, but I don't think that was ever the goal. I think he's always been trying to spin off and create his own media entity. I think that's what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it kind of shows too with like everything that's out. It wasn't like he had sticking points with the contract. These were basically term sheets. So generally, when you're negotiating with other parties, you send term sheets of like, this is kind of what I expect.
Yeah.
And then whenever we come to agreement on the general terms, we can get the lawyers to figure out what the exact
but Benny,
is, and they'll spend 6 months going back and forth.
Benny Boy said that when Crowder offered, he didn't redline anything. He didn't make a single change to any of the terms. He just sent an offer back. He's like, give me 120 million instead. And it was like, or something, I think 30 million a year over 4 years. Yeah, he wanted 100, and that was it. So it's like, obviously it's not a serious negotiation.
Yeah.
So his goal was to just fuck him over and then do his thing, I think.
Yeah, I think every single good faith negotiation that I've had, I think the biggest one that I was on was basically for some C-level execs. But basically it was like, here's what we expect. And then here's like 50, terms or whatever. Right. And they'd come back with like, all right, well, here's whatever. And then we'd hop on a call and we say, hey, by this term, we didn't mean this. We're concerned about ABC. And we think the best way to address that is by XYZ. And they'd say, oh, well, XYZ conflicts with my DEF or whatever. And then we say, okay, well, we both agree ABC is bad. So how can we come together and get together on that?
Yeah, people think that at this level, people think contracts are being written where you're going to get like by like a sneaky clause or something. Like, or they're trying to that's not happening at these. Also, keep in mind, be realistic. Companies don't want to you over like that. It doesn't help the Daily Wire or Steven Crowder if they're trying to the over and secret terms. You want your talent to be paid well, to be happy working with you, and to go above and beyond and do what they need to do to fulfill the obligation of the contract, and to be like happy the whole time. You want a positive relationship with talent always. You don't want to be adversarial towards your top talent. That's like suicidal. Yeah.
Well, it kind of depends on the business model that you're running. But yeah, for the most part, most corporations want everybody to be happy. But there's a lot of people who run scummy organizations. And especially when you can go through, if your intent is to burn through a lot of new talent. And
No. Yeah, I'm very specifically, I'm talking about top talent here. I'm talking about top A-list talent. Like
people
Steven
that have
Crowder,
already been proven and everything else.
Yeah. Now, if the Daily Wire was drafting like a 30,000 YouTube sub person, they might like be pretty like brutal. We own all of your content into perpetuity. Once you leave the platform, the terms are not going to be available towards you. But that's because that person has so much more to gain. But for top talent, you always want them to be happy. You don't want them to feel like they're getting fucked, and they've got to like work for you. Especially in entertainment where
top talent again,
and especially in entertainment where like how happy they are in that like organization and everything, like it is going to determine like how well they produce content for you. Like if Crowder's miserable on the Daily Wire, he's not going to enjoy collaborating with anybody there. He's not going to have a fun time like producing shit for them. Like nobody's going to like that. It's just going to be bad all around.
Yeah, and they're never going to get anybody again, and they're never going to be the next Fox or MSNBC or whatever their goal is essentially to be. Because I assume at the end of the day, they want to be they want to be Fox News, they want to be CNN, they want to be MSNBC. Yeah. And if you're not able to recruit and attain those people, then that just doesn't match with their business model at all.
Someone
at
said,
least from my Go
Yeah.
for it.
Someone said if Crowder was 20 to 30% bigger, he would rival Tucker. He's a big guy. I don't think that's true. I think that the Daily Wire has a way bigger reach because I think the Daily Wire and a lot of their people are syndicated to a lot of actual like national media. Like I think this might be surprising you guys, but I'm gonna totally pull these numbers out of my ass. Okay. I think that it might be the case that like 60 to 80% of Republicans in the United States, I'm going to say 60 to 80% of Republicans in the United States probably know who Ben Shapiro is. I bet like 15 to 20% know who Steven Crowder is. That's going to be my guess. Because Crowder is way more like an online dude in an online platform, whereas I think Ben Shapiro has very much penetrated like mainstream media. Like a lot of like normal folks will know who Ben Shapiro is, but I don't think a lot of like just kind of like if I were to ask my mom and dad, do you guys know who Steven Crowder is? I don't know if they would know who that is. I'm not sure.
I don't think my parents would know either, but I think they would be pretty amenable to his ideas should they come into contact with him. And I think that's a big reason why the Daily Wire wanted to bring on Steven Crowder, even though he doesn't perfectly match with Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens and whatever. He has a unique perspective, which is relatively valid, and he has a unique audience that they're tapping into. So not only could they monetize Steven Crowder's audience, so taking the revenue from the Mug Club, but you know what? They have a mostly shared ideological base, and they could probably push him into a lot of other products, which would be the big reason why they would want to bring him on. I think the big hang-up in contract negotiation is on the general idea of the terms and not really as much of the numbers so much, because again, numbers, you can always come to different conclusions as to what it is, and that generally tends not to be the hang-up. It tends to be on the ideological points. So the big one for Steven Crowder that he made a big deal was that, oh, well, if you lose your monetization from YouTube or whatever, then like, you're going to lose 25% of your overhead, even though he says, okay, well, I've never been monetized here. So I think if you rewrote the contracts from a different perspective of like,
I disagree. I understand what you're saying, but I don't think he ever really cared about that, because that's going to be obvious, right? Because like if you're getting people demonetized and shit from platforms, you know that your ass is grass. You're not going to be able to hold on to whatever fee you're paid initially, right? That's going to be contingent upon future advertising revenue.
Sure, but you can get around that in other ways. Instead of being demonetized from YouTube, you can just have it's called a morality clause, right? Because they could have easily written a morality clause instead of it being contingent on YouTube. It could be contingent on like appropriate conservative ideals, right? Whatever you want. I guess legally is to be like, whatever.
When you say morality clause, you're saying that like in a lot of entertainment contracts, they'll say things like you can't do things that show the company in a bad light or that bring bad publicity or whatever, essentially.
Yeah,
right?
like you can't have sex with kids, you can't like do drugs in an alleyway. Yeah.
Jared Fogle,
and so because and that's exactly the same thing as what the don't get banned from YouTube clause is, right? So you can rewrite those in other ways, and if you really wanted to, you could have put the same exact idea in that he would only convey the certain ideas. And they said, oh, the easiest way is like, all right, well, you just can't get banned from these platforms because that conveys a general morality or whatever. You can't go off the crazy train of like anti-vax, whatever the Nico is on. You can't do that. You have to be more or less consistent with what we expect of you now. And there's other ways to put that in. And if Steven Crowder was serious, there would have been some conversation around that.
Yeah, of course. But that's, I mean, like the fact that you're not even sending back a serious counteroffer means I don't think he ever cared. This was all a setup for him from the very beginning.
Sure. Yeah, I would agree. At a high level. I guess the interesting thing to me was that he only leaked like 60 seconds or 90 seconds. I don't know what the exact time was, but like he had like a 15-minute video of like, oh, here's my leak call with whatever. Steve, I think, was the lawyer. But like there was very little of the actual call that was leaked. There was like
but that's
a couple
because
like very short clips.
The thing is, if he's leaking anything, he's probably leaking the things that are the most damning. And even of the stuff he leaked, nothing was actually bad. All of it was super standard practice. There's nothing out of the ordinary. So I doubt he's got anything incriminating on that phone call. And he was setting that phone call up just to set them up, right? Because when he phone calls and he starts talking about, I don't care about me, but I'm saying for other guys in the industry, like nobody does this on like why the fuck would you call a company and say shit like this? He's obviously setting them up, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially if at that point he said he had already not agreed to the contract. I mean, I think it's okay to take a principled stand that like there are certain ways that you can exploit new people in the industry, right? Like having ownership of somebody's content seems pretty extreme without the appropriate compensation, right? So I think a good example of this is what Channel 5 / All Gas No Breaks.
No, I think it just, when we say appropriate compensation, you have to think about what the parties are coming to the table for, right? If I go to a company, you're not going to own my shit, at least not once I leave. No shot. But I have a lot of leverage and I make a lot of money doing what I do. But if I had 20,000 YouTube subs, and you're offering me a full-fledged fucking studio and editors and everything, and then I'm gonna go do content, you're taking more of a risk on me than I am on you. I get to associate my name with the Daily Wire. That's amazing. If you're gonna say content we produce for you, we own into perpetuity, well then fine. Okay, that's worth it. I would do it. Like, the meme where people are like,
there has to be appropriate compensation for it, right?
The compensation
agree that
is
even if you're
the compensation is the exposure, right? It's a kind of a meme when people say like, "Oh, paid in exposure," but the only meme there is that like usually the exposure is shit. But like if President Biden was like, "I want you to work on a team for us for like 3 months or whatever, and we're gonna pay you like $500 a month," I would fucking do it. I want to be on Biden's fucking team. Like that sounds like an amazing fucking brand thing for me, you know?
Okay, yeah. So I guess that's where I disagree. I think that, well, I guess maybe for Biden you have the appropriate whatever there, but I'm just saying everything else equal. If you were to have 1,000 sub YouTuber and you're like, all right, Destiny, I'm creating my DGG whatever media company, I think that there's two different pay scales that you would offer. Is one where whoever works for you is able to perpetually monetize whatever they create for you. And then a second one, if you're able to perpetually monetize it, right? All else equal, you would say that you need to get paid more if you're going to be able to own it in the future, correct?
You need to get paid more. You is in the fee to the
sorry. The person you're hiring needs to get paid more.
Oh yeah, sure. There's going to be some compensation. Yeah,
yes,
sure. Yeah.
Correct. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference to you as long as it's appropriate to your ability to monetize it, right? So for instance, if you were to be able to pay somebody $50,000 less, then it, assuming that they would only be able to make like ballpark expected value of 50,000 plus whatever volatility around that, or variance around that, you would say that, okay, well, there's some value to him being able to monetize it and then being able to pay him less for the same content that gets put on
a little
site.
bit. But like, again, for people who are getting monetized in that way, where they're selling rights to their content, these are probably people that are not in very good negotiating position. So they're never going to get like an amazing deal. There's going to be a lot of...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But again, that's because companies like the Daily Wire want to be able to take a big risk on these smaller content creators. So of course the terms are going to be pretty unfavorable. Yeah.
And so I guess to put this in another context is name, image, and likeness for college sports, right? There's the guarantee to get paid is always worth way more than like, well, I could be QB1 for the Dolphins in like 2 years or whatever and make hundreds of millions of dollars. And the fact that you're able to be paid and they're able to take some sort of, I guess, payment on the rest of your career and take some risk on that is always going to be fine, but there's going to be some compensation that needs to happen. And so people like Steven Crowder, who are basically like QB1 for some team, they're always going to be able to demand more, and they're going to be able to push back on a lot of the more strict terms of the contract than they would expect everybody else to be able to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think we're in total agreement there. I think the craziest thing to me listening to Rekeita was the fact that he was saying that these terms were unreasonable when the terms are always reasonable, assuming that there's enough money. Because
that was the thing that I was screaming about. Yeah, because a contract is fee and terms, and they're balanced, right? You're going to give me some amount of money for some number of deliverables, for some service I've got to perform for you. It's never a problem with the fee, and it's never a problem with the terms. It's the combination of these two things. Yeah, because you can give me terms that I've got to, be on my knees and worship Donald Trump for like 6 months or whatever. But like, if you're paying me $5 billion to do it, those terms become a lot more favorable. Yeah, you can never talk about either of these things in isolation. And yeah, when Rekeita was like, yeah, the terms were fucked. No, that doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? It's a combination of both. If the fee is right, then the terms are fine. If the terms suck, it's probably because the fee isn't high enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And again, it's all about the combination that aligns with everybody's balances. Like, I think if you were to give Donald Trump $1 trillion and you said to him, I'll give you $1 trillion if you say that Obama should actually be the third president, I think he would take it. I think most people would take it.
Of course. For $1 trillion? Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, just to say it once, yeah, absolutely. Like, I think the problem that people have with contract negotiations is when there's a massive imbalance of power, and it's like, okay, well, you either come to the Daily Wire and I'll pay you like 50 cents an hour to make contracts for us, or, I'll send you to like the gulag over in like Abu Ghraib or whatever, right? I think that's where people have the problem. But there was none of that issue at all with Steven Crowder's contract whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, the numbers that were given out, generally you give like pretty shitty terms. I think if I was to fault the Daily Wire somewhere, I would guess that they're probably underselling whatever Steven Crowder's value is, and he may have found it like a bit insulting and then decided to go on a vendetta, because I've definitely seen that happen as well, where we've offered candidates on the low end of our pay grade, expecting them to negotiate massively, and then they just like kind of like flip out and lose their shit, and then we just like lose them entirely.
Yeah, that's why I left Twitch. Their
them,
counter offer to Owned was insulting, and I was like, how are you guys going to tell me that you've been fucking me for this long? Owned offers me this big thing, and your counter offer is to match their offer for me to stay. Fuck you, I'm leaving. I'm not even gonna enter more. Like, I'm done. Yeah, that was the reason why I jumped ship to Owned. But for a first offer, though, I don't know. I just feel like, especially when Crowder's numbers aren't public, you know? Like, when people make me big offers now, they have to poke and prod a little bit to find out what I'm getting paid by other people. Otherwise, they're just shooting in the dark. And you don't want to be shooting way too high in the dark because you're fucked. So they're going to be asking me numbers like, like Train actually contacted me for going to Kick because he wanted to have a conversation about that. But he needs to ask me, oh, well, how much are you making on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. Because he's not just going to shoot in the dark. Like, oh, do you want $20,000 to come? I was like, no, no. And he's like, what, do you want 20 million? It's like, yeah, I'm on my way, right? He's going to want to get an idea of how much money I'm making so that he can value like what his offer should be.
So what's interesting is typically when we have these type of negotiations, we will enter into an NDA with like, hey, we're going to start talking about stuff. I need to know this information to go enter into good faith conversation. And allegedly that Crowder and Daily Wire didn't have an NDA set up between them. So that's why Crowder was able to leak all this stuff and everything else.
Well,
and so normally
that's because the first offer sheet, typically you're not under NDA until you begin discussing particular terms. Now they could have theoretically, they could have NDA'd before that boilerplate offer, but I mean, like they didn't. I think
typically before we send any offer, we're always ending up under NDA, because we can say I can have a conversation with somebody and I can say, hey, you know, we'd like to have an offer to do business with you, either to purchase a contract, buy your business, whatever. We can send you over an offer, but it's probably just going to be extremely generic, but we're probably going to have to go under NDA, or we can just enter an NDA now. And usually before we're discussing business, we're under these NDAs because we understand that to actually appropriately offer stuff, I have no way to estimate what you're worth without knowing things.
Yeah, and so I understand what you're saying. I think that NDA would have happened, but the boilerplate, the boilerplate was probably like a friend DA, right? They probably sent it thinking like, here's like a first thing, like we'll sign some papers, you want to get into specifics, but like the first shot was just like a friend DA, like here you go, you'll be fine, just don't leak, like blah blah. That's probably what they expected. But if it did get leaked, right? Shit that you friend DA doesn't like, people don't care as much. Like if it gets like whatever, this is our boilerplate initial offer, like we don't care, right? They probably sent similar offers to smaller talent that like could leak it, and they're not gonna like sue them because it's not worth it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't know. I just think it's wild though that they're friends, or allegedly friends. They've been working together for how long?
Yeah, that is true.
Blows
but
up in the face.
We're talking about, it's a lot of money. Right.
Well, I don't think it's just about the money. If it was about the money, I'm sure they could have negotiated agreements, or Steven Crowder could have said, oh, well, I actually want the rights or whatever. I think everything in the contract was negotiable. I think that the intentionality was on Crowder to torpedo the relationship.
Yeah, I agree. But when I say a lot of money, I mean like not just money, but like it's money, it's empire, it's reputation, it's vying for like future leadership position in like Republican Party, like pundit media, like all of this is on the line. Friendships are not can carry you through these types of things. Like there's going to be people like that are really ambitious that are pushing for crazy shit here, I think.
Yeah, but I think that it comes down to the people, not exactly you know what, we can still be friendly even if it's not going to work out, even if you have these other ambitions. I think Crowder intentionally torpedoed his friendships to push himself further along, because I think they could have just done nothing in the background and Crowder still could have done whatever. I think he intentionally burned that bridge because he didn't consider them friends enough, I guess.
No, well, I think it's because he has ambitions to like try to like he wants to be a competitor to them, a big competitor, and he wants to fight with them.
Sure.
I think he wanted to. I think that torpedoing was intentional, and he gets a whole huge boost in all of his email lists and all that shit initially. If I had to guess, I'm guessing the Blaze isn't going to hand any of that shit over to him. They probably own it all because he probably got contract fucked with them initially because he wasn't as big when he signed up. Maybe. But now this is a way for him to get all of his emailers and everybody back on a list, right? He probably can't get it from the Blaze, but now he starts his own movement. He's going to leave the Blaze, and now he's found a way to funnel all of his prior subs and hopefully some new ones into his new email list that he's going to use for the new media site that he starts. So it works out really well for him.
I don't know if the email list is the most valuable portion of his brand. I agree that it's important, but I think it's more so the ideological juxtaposition. Like, I still feel like he could have got just as big of an email list without going through the.
I don't know, man. I think those email lists are pretty valuable when you're getting like lists of people. That are
they're extremely valuable, but I think he could have generated a same size list if he is the last few times he was like, hey guys, I'm transitioning over. I still think he could have gotten a similar size email list. I think the value in whatever, like I still think if he was still aligned, he'd still be able to show up on the Blaze and whatever and be like, oh hey, by the way, I'm Steven Crowder, join my mug club, whatever. I still think he would have been able to put the
No
same size
shot.
list.
Do you really think so though?
Oh yeah,
Like, let's say
absolutely.
you leave. Let's say
So, I
I've
mean,
got
you
you
let
under
me come on your
contract.
show all the time, right? If I was like, oh, hey, go to ragepope.com and give me your whatever, as long as we're still friends and I'm still generating content from you, I can still
Wait.
monetize all your viewers.
But there's a big difference. I don't get your subs anymore, right? Imagine if you
well,
were.
but you're not getting my subs anymore. So
No, wait, but
so
real quick, just think about this. Imagine you're employed by me, Ragepope, and you're telling people like, yeah, sign up for the Rage Club, blah, 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 but I'm monetizing all of that, and I like pay you a kind of or fee or whatever. Let's say that we go separate ways. You want to leave the DGG orbit sphere, that's fine, and you're going to be your own guy. If we start making content together, and now you've taken away like fucking 200,000 subs from me, oof. But whatever, okay, you go, you do your own thing. Now you come and make content with me, and now you're also saying like, hey guys, remember, sign up for the Rage Club. Do I really want you promoting like your subs now that aren't part of my network on your own thing? I mean, maybe if we're friendly, but like, damn, when like tens of millions of dollars are involved.
Yeah,
oof.
but when people go, they go on Fox News and CNN all the time. They're like, hey, by the way, buy my new book, whatever, right? That happens all the time, and it's accepted because it's still part of a friendly business transaction where I can go to your audience and I can get exposure because I'm giving something of relatively equal value back to you, and I'm still able to monetize your network by providing you content.
I half agree, but I think there's a difference from like mainstream media to alternative media, where I think that subscription models have been a thing that have been pushing for a really long time, and those subscription models are really important. I think that's why Daily Wire has that initiative to create unique content to sell, because anytime I've seen so many of these ads for that What Is a Woman documentary, they're always like, that was free as long as you signed up for the Daily Wire's monthly subscription thing. So if that's what people are competing on, why the would I ever push non-endemic talent on my platform? Why would I invite Ragepope here to do like promote the Rage Club when I could get in-house endemic talent to promote our own subscription model? Like, I don't ever want you competing with my product, right?
Well, all right. So this is like super complicated, but I would say that generally when you're bringing people on, you're having some sort of conversation that's monetizable, right? You're able to go create a YouTube and whatever. And because I may be parallel or similar to you, I'm not in a direct competition. And I don't think for the subscription models, you're exactly in a direct competition that
I think it is. I think when you're talking about like the Daily Wire and the Blaze, my guess is these two are directly competing with each other. And you know for a fact that Steven Crowder's Mug Club is going to compete with the Blaze because he's literally parting from that platform, right?
Sure, but I guess the question is whether an explicit direct competition is better than an implicit direct competition, because the question is how many people are going to overlap between subscribing to both versus like you have to choose one or the other, and where is the value? And I think that
I bet most people subscribe to only one. You're probably part of a certain media sphere. Like you're like a Daily Wire fan, or you're like a Mug Club Steven Crowder fan. But like you said, ideologically they are a bit different. Like Ben Shapiro, I think is unironically, compared to where the media landscape is today, I think Ben Shapiro is a pretty solidly center-right kind of guy, whereas I think Crowder veers off a lot more into that populist kind of Trump fan territory. So I think these are competing subscriptions, like competing ideologies against each other. I don't think there's probably a bit of overlap between fans, but I bet it's starting to grow larger apart. Like, I think if you're a really loyal fan to like Ben Shapiro or to Steven Crowder, you're probably starting to get increasingly pissed off at the other's views, right? Whether it's the Crowder and like the anti-Semitic stuff, maybe a little bit for like Ben Shapiro who's Jewish, or whether you're like a Ben Shapiro fan who's like, you know, Shapiro was initially on the wall about Trump, he kind of came over and now he's like kind of whatever again, like, and you're like, yeah, and Crowder's like a big Trump fan, like I don't like that shit as much, like, especially, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that market research in front of me to say one way or the other, but I guess my default assumption would be that there's more money to be made in taking some from the other versus in direct competition, but I could be entirely wrong on that, and I don't have any data.
Well, yeah, your goal, rather than trying to cannibalize another person's subscriber base, you're always trying to expand, But like in cases where there's like direct competition, like, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the weird thing with political alignments is it's very hard to see when brands are either direct substitutes where like you can either buy Walmart bread or you can buy whatever the top tier brand of bread is, or if you're going to just buy both brands because they're both pretty palatable to you and they're able to buy both. I don't know what that overlap is and what that looks like. And then what the impact of like directly saying that like this other brand sucks ass instead of my brand's way better is, and I think they would know that more directly. And I think Crowder thinks it's going to be more profitable to say like not only are the liberals evil, but also these big conservatives, these big 90s 2000s style
The neocons.
neocons,
Yeah.
yeah, are yeah.
Which is,
And I
I
think
think, what
that's
Shapiro is like increasingly angled towards, especially as
yeah.
they get into disagreements over like Jewish people and like Israel and all this kind of weird shit, where your neocons are still like lockstep, like we're like Israel supporters and we're not like on board with any anti-Semitic stuff at all, and they're kind of like starting to veer away from the election conspiracy stuff, but other people still want to lean like really hard into it. I think it's like a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, oh, fuck, I saw Nick Fuentes' stream for the first like 10 minutes, and they also had like a unique name for the neocons. It was like Con Inc.
Mm-hmm.
instead of like Big Con. So I think that Crowder is also like differentiating himself from like the America First Groyper people. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Damn! Imagine if Crowder picked up Fuentes. On his...
they're not going to. I think he intentionally distance himself because I think even Crowder is extreme enough to accept the actually we hate Jewish people and the big conservatives are actually Jewish as well that Fuentes was pushing.
Yeah.
So yeah. Man.
It's interesting.
So, do you think the Kanye campaign stopped because Kanye got bored or because Kanye got married to a new woman who doesn't want that craziness in her life?
I think it's the thing I said initially. He was always going to get bored and just move on after like a month. It's like he doesn't have the mind to like stick with something like that. I don't think.
Interesting. I don't know.
Because he did the same thing again a few years ago, right? Like,
well, but he actually ran a few month-long campaign for presidency. I think it was just too little, too late, and now he like started too early and got bored. And then he also just ran out of monetary backing as well. I think he looked at his financial situation, saw that he basically torpedoed and blew everything up. And then his new wife basically said, "Hey, baby, I don't want to date a broke guy on the street. Like, you need to have some money remaining. You need to stop doing your crazy shit." So
I don't know if Kanye needs money for people. I'd say he's decently influential.
I
Has any woman in the history of mankind made the decision to like, I would date this guy, but he's only worth like 9 figures instead of 10. Like he's only worth 100 million now.
well, but when you
billion,
go from like $2 billion to $400 million in like a month, and then you're still hemorrhaging on every single thing, and then who knows what obligations and debt that he has.
Sure.
Like it could very well be that if he continues down his path of anti-Semitism, that in 2 years Kanye West is just like another
Kanye broke.
Yeah, Kanye. Yeah, he's just like another homeless schizophrenic on the streets needing welfare, right? Like, yeah.
Good thing he was a worker. 5 beats a day for 3 summers. Because without that, he would be, he'd be screaming at people on the street.
I don't know. I hope his music takes an upturn because you know what? It's been all downhill since 808s, and he was one of my favorite artists back in the day, and now it's just mostly been garbage. So.
Damn, strong statement. Wow.
What's your favorite Kanye album?
It's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I think it's the best album. It's just so good.
Really?
Yeah, really. But
I think that was the start of his decline. I think 808s was just infinitely better, but it's neither here nor there.
Okay.
All right. So this one's coming from the big A man. He wants to know about your media company.
Wait, who's the
allegedly
big
Sargon of A man? Yeah, the guy who edits your videos. The Australian from down under looking for any single ladies in chat that are Americans. August is looking for a green card, so now's your chance to lock down a high value man.
Wait, is he actually?
Yeah, he wants to come to America, and he says you won't give him an O visa or an H-1B to come.
He's not. He hasn't asked, but I feel like I absolutely could. Don't those things cost like 10 grand?
Yeah, no, he has, and I told him to ask you, but he's like, no, I need to find a woman to marry. So I don't know.
Okay, never mind. So he's trying to sex traffic. Okay, he's trying to pay someone. Okay,
yeah, maybe.
I feel like he could get one of those. What did XQC have? Like the exceptional talent
An
visas, maybe?
Yeah, 01, outstanding person, because he earns enough money, and then you can point to the uniqueness of his YouTube videos. He could come over on an 01 visa for a few years. So I don't know what he's on about. Maybe he's just trying to get me to sex traffic.
I think that's what he's
maybe
after,
that's how it is. But,
You know.
Yeah, so how's your media company coming along? Apparently, Sargon of Akkad is making a fuck ton of money, and August wants to be in on that. It's not enough for him to just take a cut off of all the YouTube videos he makes.
Dude, yeah. I've thought about having the talk, but I think we're good. Every like the talk is like, listen, August, we're switching to flat fees.
Based.
But no, I don't think I'd do that.
Well, I mean, I don't know. So where are you on the media company? Like, is that actually going to happen?
Listen, I'm serious, okay?
Serious?
I'm serious, and I just need to finish Factorio. My relationship in my real life is failing. My friendships are failing. I just got to get through this fucking game.
Destiny, Factorio is never going to leave you. I'm telling you, C Block is the replacement
No,
that you
I'm
need in
not
your
doing. I
life.
just need to finish. Once I finish Factorio, my life will be.
Dude, space exploration is baby mod. C Block is where it's at. This one you can actually fail. There's unlimited whatever. You'll always be able to respawn. You'll always be able to
That's not the
do things.
challenge. That's like saying like, oh, I'm gonna program something, and
No,
it's like, oh, well, programming is really easy because it's never gonna kill me
but
in
it's
real life. Like what?
no. You can never lose this. You have unlimited resources. You have miners on every planet that'll always have an unlimited amount of
Yeah,
resources.
that's
No
not the
matter how
challenge. The
bad you are at
challenge
the
isn't
game.
having limited resources. There can be mods with limited resources. This is a different type of challenge. Okay, chill.
It's just not the same. The
It's
real
not the same,
challenge
of
is C
course.
Block. It has all the same logistics and the other requirements, except you can actually lose.
Wow. Well,
Uh, but so, anyways, your media company, are you gonna sell anything to that dude who got you unbanned from Twitter? And then are you gonna allow competing offers to whatever they do?
I don't even know what money I need to raise yet for it. We'll see what happens. Right now, I need to work on. Here's what I need to do. I was gonna schedule a dinner with Dan, but I don't know if I talked to other people. What do you think is but I don't actually know your experience either. So everything you say, I take with a grain of salt. This DGG side project is like coming along like pretty well. I think we've gotten like a couple MVPs out, or we're close to having number 2 out if it's not already out. But I need to decide what is an appropriate equity structure for the company, because I don't know what the answer to that is. Like, is it like me at 51% and me doling at everything else, or is it me at like 90% and like giving like shreds of equity to people?
I think it depends on a lot of stuff, and I think a lot of these conversations we would probably want to have offline to structure what the appropriate compensation structures are for everybody involved and everything else. So I would say,
Cake and Jay are always listening. Yeah, true.
Yeah, so as a general perspective, you always want people, especially early level employees, aligned with your company. So that's going to mean offering them some sort of profit share, right? Because Cake and Jader know exactly how your site is set up, and they could just like go create a similar product in like not a big fashion, and it wouldn't be terribly difficult for them because they've already built it once. The important things to remember are your ability to like brand and advertise it, and your ability to bring other people into the equation to give more value, right?
Yeah.
Because again, for perspective, let's say that you take 51 and you give Cake and Jader 49%, right? Because you just want whatever ownership. And let's say if you do that, you can only bring in $10 million. But if you're to give Cake and Jader 1%, and you could go to some VCs and say like, I'm going to raise like $500 billion. And so their 1% is going to be worth like 50 times more than whatever 49% ownership that they have. Then
I'm
that's
just
more
curious
valuable
in
to them.
general to
Yeah.
what is like the general when people are like starting businesses. So you said like equity is probably a more normal thing.
Yeah, equity is relatively normal, but it's going to be proportionate to your ability to finance it with them or without them and run it without them. So it's already kind of harder because they've already like created it with you, right?
Yeah, of
Because theoretically, your negotiating part at the beginning is like, Cake, you're a mid-tier dev, Jader, you're a mid-tier dev. I can just go find any fucking losers to do this.
Jesus.
But maybe instead of giving you 10% and 100K, I'm going to give them like 1% and like 500K. And so that's something that you generally want to negotiate ahead of time. So like you're already kind of behind the ball, but you're also ahead of the ball because you haven't promised them anything. As long as you haven't said like, oh, I'm going to give you 10% or whatever. Well, then now they've just basically worked for like $5 an hour instead of like the 500 that they deserved. And so you have power there. So it's going to be a lot more complicated. And then it also depends on what they can continue to contribute in the future, right? Because if you can replace Cake with some guy you buy off Fiverr for like $10 an hour, well, then like your power is going to be a lot different, and your ability to continue and grow is going to be very important as well. Because who cares if you could replace like what Cake could do with code? If Cake is able to, go out and network and provide whatever assurances and manage new people in the future, because you can grow into what the business needs as opposed to what the exact requirements are to get where you are now. So it's going to be very specific to what they can offer, what they have offered, and what they can continue to offer and grow. Because if Cake can manage like 50,000 new employees as you basically create the new Twitch, well, that's going to give him a massively different value in terms of the compensation you want to give him, as opposed to like, well, Cake can only like write SQL on lies. So It's going to depend on the specifics and everything that you're actually going to need to negotiate with them, and that would require me to ask a lot of questions about like the proprietary aspects of the company, which I'm sure you don't want on stream. So
Gotcha. Wow.
yeah, I know that's not really useful advice at all, but I would say, like, as a general rule of thumb, for employees, especially if you're trying to bring on, like, say you want to ultimately end up with like 100 or 1,000 plus person company, when you're bringing on C-level employees, um, you want to bring them on as like a relatively equal partner to you. So like say you're making 50%, if there's like 5 employees, well, probably want everybody making like 10% of what the company is, but you want their equity to be dilutable so that at the end of the day, like when you have 100 plus people on, well, they're still going to have 2 or 3% of the company. That's generally the rule of thumb, is like if you're an early employee, you're going to be closer to 5% of the ultimate diluted equity, but like probably no less than like 2 or 3%. But again, it's going to depend on a lot of different things and how exactly you want to organize the structure and how big it's going to be at the end.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of variables.
yeah, there's no one advice fits all structure for this. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a ton of ways to monetize your site that just haven't been touched at all. But that's neither here nor there. We can
maybe that's for Rage. That's for Rage.gg, dude.
Yeah, Rage.gg. Well, I mean, I'm never going to get an audience as big as yours, or anything else. That's just not my interest. But yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff you can do to get more revenue from all the subs and everything else that you have right now.
Gotcha.
Do you have a marketing guy?
No. We're good. We got all our shit.
Yeah, because like I think the biggest weakness of your website is like doing a lot of retargeting and doing a lot of like email marketing and everything else in order to induce people to sub and everything else. I think that's probably the biggest weakness that most streamers don't do. Like just like an email like, hey, in 3 days your gift sub's going away. Like, have you considered subscribing? Or like, hey, here's like a 10% off. I think you can drive a lot of revenue that way. Or subs will get like, a $5 discount on merch. And then that way it'll drive more recurrent revenue because people will like sub and like it, or they'll buy merch that they otherwise wouldn't have because they think they have whatever. But that's, I think there's a lot of merchandising or just advertising opportunities that just aren't being followed up upon. So,
what the best idea I got in an email once was that we don't do, that we need to start doing, is we need to have fucking holiday sales on subs. Hell yes.
I don't know if I would do it as holiday sales. I think there's a lot better ways to do price discrimination besides holiday sales. I think that's an okay way to do it, but I think there's much more efficient ways of monetizing through that, through sales and other things.
Maybe. But how cute would it be to have a holiday sale?
I mean, yeah, it would be better than nothing for sure. Yeah. But then the other problem is when you're running those holiday sales, the question is how much do you discount it? And then are you going to stop full price sales because people are just going to wait till the holidays? And so those are the important questions you need good marketing people for.
Gotcha.
So you're going to offer 10% off for Schizo September?
Maybe. Do you think Crowder is looking at are there any free agents that Crowder can even sign right now that are like big media guys?
I don't think Crowder would want to be signing big media guys.
You think he's trying to like start his own names or whatever? There's like nobody. Like Candace Owens, like part of the Daily Wire. Like I know she did like Tim Pool's shit about this.
Absolutely, I wouldn't want. If I was Crowder, I wouldn't want to sign any of those type of people. The people that I would want to sign are people that I could get for like $100,000 to $200,000 per year, and preferably less. Preferably like startup people, like kids that are just coming out of college or in college. I could be like, hey, I'll give you like 20, 30 grand. You can be an intern in my company for 3 to 6 months. And you can have your own segment on the show. And you could already like, he has such a big reach. He's going to get like 5,000 people applying for every position that he has. So he can pay them pretty little. But in the the interview process. He could basically figure out, you know what, this guy has what it takes. He just basically running a talent agency, but for conservative,
Content
whatever.
creators, yeah.
And people, because they naturally work in politics, will take way less. And because they'll feel super important by having everybody view like everything they say, they'll be able to take way lower of a paycheck than he needs. And I think that's exactly what he's trying to do, is to be able to screw people. But he'll be able to say, oh, you can keep all the revenue, whatever, but his risk exposure will be way less and his upside is going to be way higher.
Yeah, because he's not going to be cutting fees to these guys. He's going to be saying that like your IP rights are going to be more important than like getting a big fee, even though for smaller content creators that's absolutely not the case, because their IP is worthless. No offense, but
yep. Yeah. All right, I'm going to run to the bathroom, but yeah, I have a lot to expand on.
Oh wait, I don't need to run nanomaterials here because I'm making them on site.
Hi, Steven.
Hi, what's up, babe? Hello?
Hi, yeah. Why do you do the bulk 3 months? The bulk sales seem like good.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's good for like, because if you invest, like, then they'll have incentive to stay around, and then by the time it runs out, they'll probably do it again. But if you're doing like a sale, you probably.
This is not a serious. These are all just like meme ideas. These are not like serious things, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I do this?
Well, I guess he wants to keep talking about that stuff, so I won't bring
what's
up.
Up? I think I have to leave in like an hour and a half. So if you got something you want to bring up, you better do it now.
Okay, yeah. Wicked Supreme tweeted the.
Orbiter.
Oh, it was a while ago. He tweeted about role models, and he asked people who good role models were for young men or people in general these days.
Mm-hmm.
So first, my question that I've been thinking about is like, what makes a good role model? Do you think?
Probably somebody that has characteristics or features that you think are good for other people to emulate.
I think that's a good one. I think another key component to that is being relatable, to be self-insertable into, right?
Maybe, sure.
And then
it can't
also
be like a role model can't be like Jesus Christ, kind of, right? Or you can, but that's like almost unattainable. So
yeah, if your role model is going to be Jesus Christ, you have to have the understanding that you'll never be that, which makes it slightly less effective, because then you can start rationalizing bad behaviors. And then I think the other one.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
So I think the big thing, if you take a look at what Steven Crowder has, he probably has about $5 million to play with every year. If I had to take a stab in the dark, I think it's at least 2 million. I think it's less than 10 million. And so if you're trying to build a media empire, well, what does he need? He needs talent, but he's not able to pay. He's just not able to pay like Candace Owens or anybody else of that nature, right? He can't afford Ben Shapiro because, he probably makes less than them. And he doesn't have the same reach. And he probably doesn't want to buy somebody who's about as big as him, because he's going to compete directly with him, right? So what he needs is, to build a media empire, is he needs a lot of people that are able to create a lot of content basically underneath his brand. I don't think it's super important to him that they stay loyal to him, so to speak, but that they create things and they tie back to him. And so the only way for him to kind of be able to build that out is to get a pretty large number of smaller content creators that he can pay probably like $100,000 to $200,000 a year, and then hopefully make $200,000 to $300,000 on top of them.
Sure. Because I think it would be way less than that. If he's looking for smaller content creators, you can cut up these contracts for like probably $20,000 to $40,000 a year, unironically. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much content they're going to put out and everything else. But like,
nah, you could find like people. You could find like decently driven people that will do shit for you for like $40,000 a year. Absolutely, that's because you said earlier. This is like politics today is kind of like what gaming was like a while ago, where it's like, if I could have a job in gaming, that's the dream. And like people were drooling. If you had StarCraft 2 teams that were offering $400 salaries, you've like made it. Like that's like the dream. I'm gonna pay $400 a month to play games. People would do the same in politics. Well, yeah.
I think the margin that he's looking for is like very slim. I think he's just looking to be like revenue neutral for the people that he acquires for his platform, right?
Sure.
It doesn't matter if he's paying them $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000, as long as he breaks even on the money that he's bringing in from them. I think the value of his media empire goes up like exponentially, right? Because if you're spending $1 billion a year and you're getting $1 billion in revenue, then your value and your ability to reach people is like massively higher than if you're like spending like $10 million and then making
gross is going to be
$30
way
million.
more important than net, right? Like you can be netting
Exactly.
like 300% profit, but if you're like, even if you're like unprofitable, but your like gross is like in the billions of dollars, so you're in a way better position. Yeah, because you've got more room for growth in the future.
Yeah. And I think that's the model that he's going for. And I think the easiest way to do that, again, is to just hire a bunch of like smaller people, even for just like 1 or 2 segments a week, just to have a fuck ton of content driven to your site, the same way that Amazon did basically at the beginning, is like sell basically at cost or whatever, or maybe even at a small loss to like bring people in, and then hope that your own personal mug club or whatever is going to cover the difference. And then the money that you have banked, or the investor money that you can raise, will get you to the point of profitability so you can get as large as like Fox News. And I think that's the model that he's going to be going for. And then I'm pretty sure that like what's his name, Crowder, would even take on people like Zerka, who are just going to drive like insane shit and traffic and everything, even if it's not really monetizable to be selling Flat Earth, just because it was get eyeballs to the site, and you can use that as sales funnels to the other portions of your show.
Sure.